is our Penguins game.
That's a nice way to walk into a room. Thanks, guys. How is everyone?
Good.
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 Yeah, good.
Do we need to move this? No. Hey. Wow. Is that good? Can you hear us?
If we could have it where it was, that would
Oh.
be better though.
I screwed up.
Nice.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
All right. I'm Cody from Night Terrors. This is Alex Vincent from Child's Play.
You guys are very kind. Thanks. Are we having fun here so far? Yeah.
So what was it like being a kid growing up with a killer doll?
Entertaining.
Yeah.
Interesting. Different. I mean, this has been going on for 32 years, but I only actually spent in my entire lifetime maybe 7 months working on these films, and I'm 38, so it wasn't, it didn't really consume my life in that way, but I've been talking about it, since I was 6 years old,
Right.
which is interesting, an interesting thing to have in your life. I grew up in a small town in New Jersey. That was like a 1 square mile, and I grew up with about the same 80 kids from 1st grade to 8th grade. So they knew me before and during and after, and I never moved to Hollywood or California. I pretty much stopped auditioning when I was 13. So I lived a very normal life. I wasn't but aside from talking about it a lot, like until I started doing conventions in 2002 or something like that, it was just a thing that I did,
Because you took quite a break between Child's Play 2 and then Curse of
Yeah,
Chucky.
like 28 years.
Right.
That's a break and a half. But yeah, Don Mancini and I, with social media, were able to reconnect maybe 10 years ago. And, I always really admired him when I was a kid. He was awesome. He was a very young writer who had an awesome sports car, blue Alfa Romeo, and he took me to see Back to the Future in the theater, and I guess the second or third one. So yeah, I always really looked up to him. So we kept good friends. And when they were making Curse, he just told me I wrote a part for you. He knew that I would always be excited about coming back as Andy. I had to watch, Bride and Seed and everything come out when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Had no part of it. And of course, part 3, the character got older before I did. I was only 10 at the time. We had just made Child's Play 2 like a year before, and they wanted the character to have a love interest and be in the military school and stuff like that. And I was only 10. So that was really disappointing for me at the time, because I thought I was going to be in the next one, and I wasn't. So after, that many years, the opportunity to come back and play Andy again was very, very exciting and awesome.
Great.
Yeah. I love acting. It's not like I left the business because I don't enjoy acting. I don't enjoy auditioning and the amount of commitment it takes to be a professional actor. You have to be in the gym constantly, for one thing. Have a diet that was not okay with me. And, living in California is incredibly expensive. And I mean, these days, people send in taped auditions, which is a little easier to handle. I don't think it's the best way to represent yourself for an audition, but it's popular. So I might start doing that more. I own a recording studio production company in Florida, and it would be easy for me to make tapes, so I might do that. We're trying to make a TV series on, I'm jumping ahead, but.
Well, I was going to ask you about it. So.
Well, the plan moving forward, who saw Cult of Chucky in here? Yeah. Most of you? Awesome, thank you. Well, as you know, that ended with a lot of, a big cliffhanger and a lot of open-ended opportunities for storytelling, and he got the better hands of, got the upper edge on us after that one. So the idea moving forward is to make a TV series on sci-fi. We're in development with the Sci-Fi Network, so there could be maybe 8 hours of Chucky coming next year.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm very involved.
Nice.
Yeah, that'd be great. So this is also, the remake just came out. Have you seen that at all, or?
No.
Do you plan on seeing it at all, or like? Because Don Mancini's not really involved in that. That's more the studio took it and.
No one from our franchise is involved with that at all. Yeah, there's, everybody will have their own opinions about it, and some people won't like it, and some people won't. And, in this age of division, I mean, you guys are Canadian, but in the States especially, everything is so freaking divided right now that something to argue about, people need that in their lives now, it seems. So there's this opposition that our franchise faces now by MGM spending a lot of money, Orion, whatever, spending a lot of money to put that movie out. So it's hard to say from our perspective how that will, in the long run, affect our opportunity for this TV series, and maybe it'll be a good thing, maybe it won't. It's hard to tell. So
I guess it depends. If the movie gets a lot of praise, then it might get a lot of people watching the show.
There's a couple different ways that you can look at all
Right.
of that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's cool. Like Don Mancini, I'm a big fan too, and I'm glad you guys are still working together. 'Cause
Yeah.
I love that out of a big franchise, he's been there from the beginning, and I love that he's been heavily involved with
Sure.
the movies and stuff. Because I mean, I think he's just like Child's Play 2 is such a great movie.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
it is, and it's a lot of people. That's their favorite of the franchise. I guess most people would say the first one, but Part 2 is a very close runner-up. A lot of people really love that movie.
Oh yeah, and you could really tell, like, especially where it started as like a horror slasher, and then kind of went more comedy.
Yes.
And now he's bringing it back to like the horror slashers kind of style.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean it's a bit of both. Curse I think was a pretty dark movie with not that many laughs in it. Cult had a few more laughs, but still had a dark premise and a dark tone to it, which I appreciate. I mean, I was always happy that I was in the scary ones of the franchise. But the fact that they made comedy films makes perfect sense. There's no, there really wouldn't have been any way to convincingly take ourselves seriously for 7 films about a doll that kills people. So the jokes were already there in concept alone. So.
plus, Brad Dourif is such a great.
Oh yeah, I mean he's equal parts menacing and hysterical. so,
Right.
yeah.
It just works with the character.
Yeah.
He can play both. And did you get to work a lot with Brad? Like, or was it all he was?
He does everything first.
Right.
So instead of the other way around, where you'd think that maybe he'd add his voice to what the doll did, it works the other way around. He does all of his voice first, and they puppeteer the doll around his lines. So, which is great for us as actors because we're working off basically inanimate objects. So having his voice on set adds some real presence and dimension, makes it easier to,
act off of.
to act off of it and to feel in the moment, and
Right.
as much as you can for a doll.
With 20 guys behind operating.
Yeah.
And then anything else like new aside from the show that do you have anything
That I'm up to?
Yeah, that you're up to, like.
Like I said, I have a recording studio. I've been doing it for the past 5 years. So I've worked with over 250 artists in that time. Some very, very talented, some not so talented. It's not really a sound business. I'm trying to get money from the brokest people in the world, musicians. But I'm doing what I enjoy doing. And I've gotten to do some sound for film and a little bit of scoring stuff and any aspects of audio, which is what I'm passionate about. I write a lot also. I just published, self-published, like my 5th poetry book, and I write a lot of screenplays. I'm writing a pilot right now.
Oh, cool.
I'm always writing something. They say it's who you know in this business, and I'm sure you guys sitting there think that I know, but I don't know anybody, and nobody knows. How it is. It's tough. It's tough selling things to people and getting investors because I have a lot of screenplays that I wrote that are kind of sitting around. One of them we made in 2013 for no money.
Oh, cool.
It was I was hired kind of to write someone else's idea, but that was fun. It was the first time that dialogue and stuff that I've written on a page came to life in a production like that. So, yeah, I hope to do more of that.
And then you said you moved to Florida. That's where your studio is?
Yeah, I've been in Florida the past 10 years.
And how's that for the, different from Jersey to Florida?
It's more affordable for one thing. I guess people probably think because it's tropical or whatever that Florida's expensive, but it's not very expensive to live at all. And North Jersey, where I grew up, which is 5 miles from New York City, is insanely expensive.
Right.
So is California. So as a creative person who refuses to work a 9-to-5 kind of job, and even if it means I'm broke in exchange for that, it's hard. It would be tough to live in New York or LA. I love California and I love New York, but for now, Florida's working out. I've been there 10 years. The weather's nice. I live by the water. I get to fish a lot. And, my studio is affordable in a sense compared to, if I had a storefront thing in Manhattan or something, it would be $20,000 a month to keep it open. So yeah, Florida's working out okay. I like this city. It's real cold. We shot Cult of Chucky and Curse in Winnipeg. And Cult we shot in January and February.
Oh, that's cold.
Yeah. So any scenes that you see us outdoors, it was brutal to shoot. I mean, you guys know if you've been there, but it's like you get frostbite in 5 minutes. It was very serious. And there were crew guys that were out there 14, 15-hour days, outside shots, bundled up, they look like snow, moving igloo. But it was really challenging. That part of it was incredibly challenging. So this TV series, if it happens, now you never know in this business. As of right now, things are moving forward positively for that. But if it happens, I don't know where we're shooting it, but it might be Winnipeg again, and hopefully not in the winter. Days like yesterday was beautiful here. I hear in Calgary you can have all 4 seasons in one day.
Yeah. And it snowed every month of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in North Jersey it gets cold and there's snow, and I did that for 27 years, and I can't live with it anymore. But
I mean, and probably quite a difference from Florida to Calgary.
Yeah, very much.
I guess because there's no humidity here. So.
Yeah, no, yeah, very much. Yeah.
Do we have any audience questions at all, or we can keep just chatting if nobody wants?
No, let's turn it to them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
What was it like working with Fiona and Jennifer?
Fiona, I love both of them. But Fiona is such a talented actress. And I was very excited when I read the script that I had a page with her. It's short, it's just that small exchange in Cult. But I was very excited to do that. I respect her a lot as an actress, and her dad too, obviously. And she's fun. We have a fun little friendship. She busts chops a lot. She's like a ball buster, but she's fun. And Jennifer is exactly like you think she is. She's a lot of fun. Her scene, we did not have a scene together in the script originally, and they were asking for a synopsis of the film, and Don wrote one, and he kind of phrased it as Andy's going after Chucky but has to get through Tiffany first or whatever. And so when that was put out, everybody assumed that I would have scenes with Jennifer and it would be Andy versus Tiffany, and there was really none of that in the film. So he decided, well, I kind of suggested, and he thought it was a good idea, and that we put some sort of interaction between the two of us. So he wrote that scene where I call her, or she calls me, and they had this old car that she was in, and I was laying down in the back seat feeding her lines. I didn't really have to be there for it, but I wanted to, so I was feeding her lines, and it was really funny and cute. She's just like you think.
Anyone else?
Did you consider going voice acting route or anything like that?
Yeah, that sounds great. I would love to. Let me know if you're working on anything. I did a podcast from my studio this year, something different that I wanted to try. It's called The Final Note, and you could go to The Final Note Live or just look up The Final Note on YouTube. And it's from my studio, and it was live Wednesday nights, and I played a lot of music that I mixed and recorded at the studio over the last 5 years. As our commercial breaks, I would just play songs, and I had a live band or artist, musician every episode perform live on the show, and I had a horror interview with a friend of mine from the horror business on every episode, and we had an overall kind of social commentary topic of each episode, and that was fun. I mean, a lot of people said that my voice sounds good on radio. Nobody likes how you sound to yourselves.
Yeah.
We all think that we sound very differently than we do, and then we hear it back, we're like, nobody really seems to like their own voice, and I'm in that category also. But I would love to do that. Like when I was a kid, I did a lot of voices and impressions and stuff like that. So something like that would be super fun. But the podcast was good. I had a lot of people on. Danielle Harris was on, Kane Hodder was on, Miko Hughes, Christina Elise, Catherine Hicks, Felissa Rose, Serena Vincent, like 7 other people. And so I did that for 4 months, and then I took a break because I had 4 conventions in 6 weeks that I've been doing right now, and that's a lot to do that and produce this show myself and find the people to be on it. And if the show was just us sitting there BSing, it would have been a lot easier, but because I was trying to do a lot with each episode, I had to take a break from it. And so we might in the next month or 2 get back to it and have some more people on and do more of it. But the shows run from like an hour and a half to 3 hours, somewhere around that, and they're all up on YouTube if you want to go check it out.
Sure.
Click subscribe, guys.
What was that called again?
The Final Note.
Final Note. Thanks.
Yeah, it's crossover of horror and music, which is my life, so.
Yeah, sweet. Cool.
And Christina was supposed to be here. She actually.
She was, yeah.
Yeah, couldn't make it. But are you guys still?
She couldn't make it for a pretty awesome reason. She's filming 90210 as Emily Valentine right now.
Oh.
Which is pretty fun. But she was disappointed that she couldn't come, and sorry for anyone that she disappointed by not being able to make it. But
man, I was like, we're gonna have a Child's Play 2 panel. It's gonna be so awesome.
That's just another good reason for him to bring me back. So
Yes.
And then the 2 of us will come back.
Are you guys still close? Like, do you obviously it was on the podcast?
She's like my sister.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Similarly to Dawn, we were able to reconnect through social media, but also we did a convention together in Louisville maybe 8 or 9 years ago, maybe 10, maybe longer, and we started talking more often, and now, yeah, I talk to her more often than my real sisters.
Oh, really?
We're very, very close. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
talk every day.
That's like, it's so cool because she's such an amazing person.
She is.
Yeah.
She's an amazing person and smart and funny and a lot of fun and has very little filter and a lot of opinions. So, yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can see if next time we get both of you and do another one. Yeah.
I'll tell you, next year is the 30th anniversary of Child's Play 2. So.
Oh man. We gotta push Dan to get
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
year. So. Anyone else? Do we have? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a Child's Play comic that was, I can't remember how many years ago it was. I'm not sure who owns the rights for it, but celebrity scribing of comic books is quite hot.
Yeah.
And horror comics are quite hot, and you have the ability to write screenplays and so on. So that might be something to consider.
You mean for me to write a Child's Play comic?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd have the rights to do that.
Well, no, you can approach a publisher like Dynamite or whatever. I can't remember the exact one. And you pitch and you say, if you acquire the rights, then I can write the series, because they like having celebrities of those particular products write those comics, because then they can kind of like play it up that yes, this is by someone who's involved in the series, right?
Well, that sounds like interesting advice, and that's a good idea, I guess, but it's, I'm in a bit of an odd spot in the sense that I don't do much acting, and I'm trying to get a big part on this upcoming sci-fi show. So, asking Universal for favors is something I shouldn't do right now. But in the future, that sounds fun. I would love to do that. But yeah, it's a good idea. Thanks. Yeah, cool.
I got
Yeah.
I was talking to Danny Lloyd, and he said that during the filming of The Shining, Kubrick kind of sheltered him away from what he was doing. Did the director of Child's Play do the same?
No.
Fucking horror movie, bro. You didn't die, baby.
No, I got to meet Danny this weekend too for the first time,
Oh, that's cool.
which is cool because we have some parallels. They made that movie a year before I was born, but I would say once a year, someone at a convention goes, "You don't have any Shining photos. Where?" I think it's because we all had the '80s bowl haircut. But, what was the question about him then?
Did they shelter you away?
Oh, right. No, I was a really bright kid when I was 6. I was significantly more intelligent than I am now, which is partially intentional, or at least of my own doing. So no, I had the entire script memorized, all my lines, all everybody else's lines.
And you saw like 5
I knew exactly what was happening, and I thought the puppeteering was the coolest thing in the world, and there was nothing was gonna scare me in the slightest, and they knew that. They could tell that immediately. So, no, they really didn't try to shelter me. The things that I didn't want to see, I wouldn't go to set. The stuff that I had, and the only example of that was Ed Gale when they set him on fire as Chucky, and he runs out and he circles around and crawls up on. I was friends with Ed Gale in the making of that film, and I didn't want to see them set him on fire. But yeah, besides that, no. I guess the burnt Chucky, after he's burnt and he's dripping and stalking down the hallway after me burnt, I think they maybe didn't want me to see that burnt Chucky. They thought that would be a little too scary.
That scares me right now.
Yeah.
That fucking thing's chasing me from the basement.
Yeah. Yeah. It wouldn't have been scary. I thought it was all just way too cool. So yeah, they didn't do much to keep me separate from anything. No. And there weren't many opportunities to. I was in almost every scene, especially in the second film. I had so much hands-on stuff with the doll that, we weren't going to go through the effort of post-production, cutting things together to spare me.
Or special trailer
yeah,
that you get to watch.
No, none of that.
Alright, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you go watch the films as a
Oh, of
kid?
course, yeah. Saw the premiere. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, and also it was very difficult for my mother to convincingly argue for me not to see anything after that. It was in an R-rated film. What are you talking? So that helps. But.
Do we have any?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. We'll get you after.
In terms of like screenwriting and getting back into acting, would you say you're kind of gravitating towards horror or kind of venturing out into different genres?
I have a bit of a I guess, with horror. If someone was going to invest in something that I wrote, it being within this genre might be advantageous for me. And I do like dark. I'm actually not the biggest horror fan in the sense that I haven't seen every sequel of every franchise and every horror movie that you guys all love. I know all these people personally, and I haven't seen most of their films. But I do, my writing is very dark in general. The concepts that I come up with for stuff is usually very dark also. So, yes, of the maybe 7 or 8 completed screenplays that I have, like 6 of them are horror. Yeah, the pilot that I'm writing right now is like a psychological thriller, kind of thing. Yeah, but I love comedy. Comedy is really my favorite thing.
They go together so well.
Yeah, they do. That's true. Yeah. Thanks.
And then you had one, yeah?
Yeah, just, do you remember when you'd done the movie and you got your paycheck and such? Do you remember your extravagant purchase?
Extravagant purchase.
I was 6. I didn't get a paycheck.
You must have gotten something like your.
I must have. I need a conversation with my mom.
You just get the little Lego kit. That's.
No one bought you a Power Wheels?
No, I mean I always had, we had things that we needed or whatever, but we were never. No, I never lived wealthy at all. I didn't make that much money for the movies to begin with, for one thing. But no, I didn't. I got some money when I turned 18. It was nothing to be really excited about at all. Yeah, I didn't make much money off these movies.
That sucks, because there's never this, sorry, there's never the story where, like, we've heard so many stories here about, like, the guys who we come to see and we love and they're broke. Or they had made no money from the movie. I just want to see the one story.
Well, first of
where
all,
it's like, I'm fucking rich, man.
First of all, let's say you get paid even $100,000 for a movie, right? Which I did not. I made less than that in these movies. But let's say you got paid $100,000 in 1988. And how much money would you have right now?
Yeah. If you invest wisely. I know, I don't know.
If you get paid $1 million, you can invest wisely and set yourself up for the future. But I didn't make anywhere near that kind of money.
Like, you guys don't still get any money from anything now. You just paid right out. And, like, there's no points in the film.
No, not at all. And the last 2 films we did were direct-to-DVD, low-budget, $5 million films. So no. I do a lot of appearances, personal appearances, and these conventions have worked out as my residuals. If I have to talk about Chucky for the rest of my life, I benefit me in some way. So.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, here.
Alex, especially in the first 2 films, I really have to appreciate, your work as a child actor, because, you've done such a wonderful job. And I guess the question that, regarding, the first 2 films, like, were there any specific scenes that you remember being potentially difficult that it actually took multiple takes, in order, to pull off efficiently?
Yeah. Well, thank you for the compliment, for one thing. Yeah, there were a couple. First of all, that crying scene in Child's Play 1 where the doll's coming to kill me and I sink down to the floor and I'm crying, it's gonna kill me. That was crying as an actor, especially when you're a kid and you're just learning the techniques of acting and what is exciting about it and what is challenging. A crying scene is up there with like the most challenging thing to do, especially when it's like a 0 to 60 kind of within the scene breakdown thing. So I had a lot of anxiety about page 48 or whatever. That's where that crying scene was, and I knew I had so much trepidation about filming it that when it came time to filming it, I just kind of broke down and cried anyway. I was stressed out by the whole thing. That, and I think Tom Holland may have been shouting horrific things at me. There's a possibility that that's true. I've heard countering recollections of that day, so different people have different thoughts of how that went down. But I remember my acting coach telling me something pretty messed up that helped, But she said, picture you're in a room and a chair, and your mother is sitting in that chair. Now picture that chair empty, and know that she'll never be in that chair again.
Oh. You were 6.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of chairs now?
So yeah, that was challenging, but worked out okay. Another side anecdote of that day is that they ran out of film while I was crying. Like, as they're filming, sometimes you run out of film and they have to switch film. Back then, especially, it was a longer process, takes 10 minutes or whatever. And I remember crying, and they're like, "Oh no, we ran out of film." And I was like, "I'll keep crying, it's okay." I do remember that. You know, I don't remember much else about being 6 years old, but things stick out from making the movie. And that line at the end, that "this is the end, Brend," I remember Tom had a very specific delivery that he wanted out of that. And it took a couple tries to get it, and I remember him being very excited when I did. Like, I remember him picking me up. "You got it, you did it, Alex."
Anything challenging with Child's Play 2, or?
The whole thing was challenging, Child's Play 2. It was, because, I mean, I was, after the success of Child's Play 1, like I said, I was a very bright kid. I knew that they were bringing me back as the lead, #1 billing in the film. I knew that the responsibility of this sequel was very much on my shoulders. And I also knew that it was an opportunity to really act. You know, when I was 6, I was a cute kid who took directions well and had a good acting coach, and I had some good scenes and all that. But by Child's Play 2, Andy is a damaged, very damaged kid, and his emotions are, you know, flat, and it's hard for him to feel emotions a little bit from the trauma that he had. So I played it very monotone and very disconnected and very untrusting and just like really damaged. And I kind of carried that forward for Cult of Chucky also. You know, Andy's lived with it for a long time now, so he's trying very hard to have a normal life the best he can. But, you know, this is a guy who's been torturing the doll for 4 years in his house, can't maintain relationships with people. So yeah, Andy, I saw some parallels to the character Dexter, because I really love that show for one thing, and I greatly respect Michael C. Hall as an actor, but his childhood trauma that made him incapable of human emotions, I saw some parallels to that. Not that Andy's a serial killer or killing people, but the damage of his childhood is profound on his life. Now the criticism of that is that or the bad side of that is that I got a lot of criticism as just being a monotone actor, like without much emotion, but that was intentional. Like Andy, what I brought to Child's Play 2, I tried to keep that going with him, but add 30 years of therapy or whatever, lack thereof, I don't know, but
You did
yeah.
an excellent job.
Thank you. I did my best. I don't act often, so it was the experience of between Child's Play 1, Child's Play 2, and Cult of Chucky were obviously completely different. You know, you don't have many insecurities as a 6 or 8 year old, but as a 35-year-old that hasn't acted much in 20 years, and you're on a big set, the responsibility is back on my shoulders, and everybody's opinion on social media, which is overwhelming to say the least. There was a good amount of anxiety that went into that. That being said, it was very, very enjoyable and fun, and I'm really looking forward to doing more of it, and I hope I get to.
Great.
Thanks.
There's 2, so we'll go you, Linda.
And then Chucky in the back. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
How does a small town Jersey boy how did you get into acting?
Like,
Well-
were you in commercials, or did your mom come home one day and say, "Hey, I've got
Yeah.
the perfect thing for you to do"?
No, it was my idea. Well, I live 5 miles from New York City, so it was just right through the tunnel when you're in New York, where a lot of auditioning takes place. A girl who lived down the street from me, Sarah Maylett, was an actress. She was in her early 20s or whatever, and she did commercials. And she did a commercial that I saw on TV when I was 5. Someone that I knew in person, I saw on TV, and I thought that was just very, very cool. So I said, I want to do this. I want to do what she's doing. I want to be an actor. And so it was kind of my idea. But then it was also, you know, my mother's and father's hard work of bringing me into New York City 3 or 4 times a week and pay for gas and parking and tolls to audition. You know, and so kind of back to what you were saying earlier about the money aspect of it. You know, it took me a lot of years to accept the fact that it really was a family thing. There were sacrifices that my family made too. It's not like, you know, where's all my money from this movie? I mean, I got some money, but my family got money too, because they put in a lot of sacrifice to make it happen. So as much as it was my idea, I'm thankful to them for giving me the chance for it to even happen. And then I auditioned for a ton of things, like for about 8 years of my childhood. I had done some commercials, a couple commercials, and I was on As the World Turns soap opera for a couple weeks. And then I got Child's Play, which was my first film. So that's how that happened. Thanks.
And then, yeah.
Alex, how did you feel when you first found out about Chucky? Like, were you scared about Chucky when you first heard the origin and everything? Like, how did you feel?
I thought it was cool. No, I just thought it was really cool. Like, you know, obviously some things had to be explained to me, like what a serial killer is and what is, and what, you know, what some of those words meant. But no, I never had any worry or fear of any of it. It was all just exciting and fun. Thanks. Yes? Well, we kind of touched on that a little. I would deflect that to you and ask what your views are. We have mixed feelings about it, sort of. Yeah. I don't have a great answer for you on that. I do, but I can't get into it. Huh? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
After being in Child's Play at 6, what was things like the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus like in your house?
I said I was a bright kid, right? That didn't fly for very long.
No?
No. Made it fun for my little sister, but no, I questioned things. I was always a questioner.
Yeah.
I still am. So that didn't last long. And you know, it's funny you say that, because when we made, I guess it was the first one, it was over Christmas and we were in California for it, and I knew, I was like, we live in New Jersey, Santa doesn't know we're in California, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Didn't add up to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. This house that they rented for us, he didn't know we were there. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I always had a lot more questions than.
Yeah.
You know. Yes.
When with Curse, with your tag on at the end, did they talk to you already about it, like the next one and playing a bigger role moving forward after that, or was it just like, hey, we got Alex, let's tag him into this movie?
Well, you know, the whole franchise could have ended right there. That could have been the last scene of the whole story. You never know when you're going to get to do something else. But of course, I hoped right off the bat that it would lead to something else, and I knew that there was a chance of that. Yeah, and I'm glad that it did. There was nothing's concrete in this business, and no one would ever say, well, I mean, in most cases, they wouldn't say, you're going to be in the scene, and then we're bringing you back for this next thing, and you're going to do this and this and that. It was a couple years of waiting to find out if I would have any involvement, and then to what extent. So, yeah. Thanks. All right, 2 more questions.
Okay, 2 more.
Make them interesting.
Or funny.
So now we put too much pressure.
Yeah.
Interesting and funny. I'm not. Yes, over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I'm a producer. I make other people sound good. I mean, I do play piano a little bit and guitar a little bit less, and I program drums, you know, and stuff like that. And I've electronic music I can make from scratch, and I've had a lot of production projects where people come in with a song that they can just hum the chorus to, and they're not sure how to take it to the next level, and I bring in musicians and we work together and arrange and write music. But no, I spent my childhood auditioning, and I didn't spend enough time getting good at an instrument, and I wish I did. I think instruments should be mandatory for children. So, yeah, thanks.
When you were filming Child's Play, did you like want to take Chucky home and stuff?
Of course I wanted to take this doll took me 4 films in 30 years to get. So, yeah. But I was a 6-year-old kid on set with producers, directors, other actors, puppeteers. Everybody wanted a doll. Like the obvious things like, oh, but you're Andy. You should. If anyone should get one, it's you. That all sounds great, but you still have to convince that to someone at studio that doesn't throw around free things that often. But yeah, it took me a long time to get them. But yeah, I've always wanted one, sure. Yeah. All right, and one more, anyone?
Do this. Oh, you were not asking a question?
No, he's shooting pictures of his phone.
All right, well.
Wait, he's kind of.
I got a question.
You have a follow-up?
No, I was just kind of wondering, like, talk a little bit like each one of his kids. Like, what about other kids and like growing up and spending the rest of your time in school and all that?
Yeah. Well,
being Andy.
From 1st grade to 8th grade, it was like the same 80 kids in my life that knew me before, in middle and during. So they never made that big of a deal of it. Plus, in the 80s and early 90s, it wasn't as common for children to be watching R-rated films as it is now. So there was that. But then when I got to high school, it was 4 towns together in high school. And it was a very multicultural school. A lot of people that had heard that I was living nearby, but so it was exciting for some kids that would make an issue out of it. But for the most part, it was just a little bit of teasing and, hey Chucky, let me get a cigarette. Like that.
What about the other kids' parents? Like, you go pick up a date and it's like, oh no, not him.
I think luckily Andy deals with that more than Alex does. All right, guys. Well, if you have any questions that you didn't want to ask, I'm still here till 5 or 6. If you want to get a picture with him or anything, I'll be up at my table. So you can see me up there if you had anything else you wanted to know. Thank you for all coming.
Yeah, thank you.